Welcome to the Horror Friendly Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Horror Friendly Podcast, part of the You Run Podcast Network. My name is Katie, and I am joined by Chantal.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey. How
How's it
are
going?
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I miss you.
I know, I miss you too. We'll get there. We even had to miss a week because, like, again, life has just been so busy. So we
Yeah,
will, and then we'll actually see each other in person soon. I'm sure. I hope.
I'm sure we will. Yeah, it's just been busy. Life is lifing.
Life is life.
It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, Fright Fest is coming up. We may have to, we have to spend a whole weekend together because we haven't seen each other in so long. But
Yeah.
that's a couple of months away. So we're going to have to try and do something before then. But we'll see.
Yes. And yeah, so there's a lot of like films coming out that we need to watch together. So
Yeah.
yeah, we need to get our shit together. But it'll be
Yeah.
fine. It'll be fine. We got this.
There is a lot of horror coming out actually. So if people are getting to
Mm.
the cinema and they're seeing stuff, let us know what's worth it, what's good, what's getting attention.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot, like 2025, considering the world is on fire and everything's a piece of shit and life is a horror movie right now. Actual horror movies seem to be have like made a comeback this year and seem to be doing
Yeah.
really well. So I think people just need that release. So they're like, at least
Yeah.
on the screen, it can't hurt us.
Yeah, they definitely do.
So
Yeah, because I went to see Clan in the Cornfields the
how
other
was it?
day. It was good. It wasn't what I was expecting, to be honest.
Okay.
But it was good. It was like the same people that did Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So I was expecting it to be quite funny and quite tongue in cheek. It wasn't as funny, and it
Okay.
wasn't like a lot of it wasn't kind of laugh out loud. There was a lot of sort of like one-liners and cheesy
Right.
gimmicks and things, but not quite as funny as Tucker and Dale. But yeah, it was still very fun. I think it would be one to maybe watch on like Halloween or something. It was very much that kind of film. But an interesting kind of plot twist at the end that I wasn't expecting. So that was quite fun. But yeah, definitely worth a watch. It felt like when I finished it, I was kind of just going to completely forget about it. Like I would just happily, I guess, not watch it again, but I would also welcome watching it again. Like I'd like to hear your opinion on it. I don't know, it's weird. I sort of feel like I'd be fine if I didn't watch it again.
Because we put a poll out at the beginning of May to be like, oh, what are people excited for? And it got quite a
Yeah.
lot of like people excited for it. But I also know a couple of people have gone to see it and really liked it. So it
Mm.
is interesting that sometimes
Yeah,
we actually just don't vibe with
it's
the
weird.
films others do. It's weird.
Yeah, because I felt like this is what, our kind of film. Like we love this kind of like corny sort of slasher,
Yeah.
pardon the pun, corny, but like these like fun, silly clown horror films.
Yeah.
So, and it was that, but there was yeah, there's like this thing at the end that happens which um doesn't yeah, it's just this big plot twist at the end, which is always good because it's always nice to have something different. But
Mm.
yeah, wasn't quite what I was expecting, but yeah, give it a go, watch it. We'd love to know your opinions on it. I'll force Tell to go to watch it at some point. And yeah, so we'll see.
Amazing. We'll see. We'll see. Well, speaking of real world horror, we've decided to cover this week our first true crime. I said that, and then I was actually trying to think of every episode we've ever done. This may not be the first, but it's definitely the.
I think it is, you know.
I think we've done somewhere it was like based on, and it's
Yeah,
like Texas Chainsaw was loosely based. So I think this is the
yeah.
first one where it's like directly a true crime. So sorry, I went off on one. So we've decided to do the 1986 Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. So Henry is released from prison following his mother's murder. He supplements his job as an exterminator with a series of indiscriminate and violent murders. Fellow jailbird and drug dealer Otis becomes a willing accomplice in Henry's bloody killings. But as the depravity escalates and Henry forms a bond with Otis's sister Becky, things start to get out of hand. The film is based on the true life story of serial killer Henry Lee Lucas. So, Katie, had you heard about this film before when I pitched it, or like first time watching?
First time watching, I'd heard of it, but I didn't know anything about it. I had no idea it was based on a serial killer, like a real life serial killer. Um, or a serial, clearly is in the title, but I didn't know it was based on a real,
No, I know what you mean. I
a
thought it was like a
real.
study of a serial killer rather than this is the
Yeah,
story of a serial killer. Yeah.
yes. So I'd heard of it. I heard it was a bit of a video nasty. I heard it's a bit of a hard watch. But that's all I kind of knew about it. But yeah, you were the one that pitched it and wanted to do it. Is it because, I mean, obviously me and you are big fans of true crime.
Mm.
Did that factor into it, or so you'd heard of it before, obviously, and
So I wanted us to cover, because we said we're never going to do like a true crime story because we're not a true crime podcast. But I wanted to cover like a true crime story, and I'd seen a couple of different films, and I've now got them on our list because I do want to cover them one day. And then, so when I was like googling like true crime horror films, this one obviously came up, and you also were like, I remember actually our conversation now of you like, oh, I've heard of it, let's give it a go. Um, it wasn't what I was expecting, but I also didn't know much about it. But I also, so I've done a lot of like follow up on Henry Lee Lucas, and apparently it's not that accurate, which I don't know
right.
if that's better or worse because it was very depraved. But it was also, and it sounds so horrible what I'm about to say because again, it's based on a serial killer who had real life victims. And for the first half of the film, I was kind of bored. And I was like, this is really horrible because there's real people that suffered at his hands. And I'm bored watching the first, and I don't know what it was. And then the second half was just like really violent, really nasty, really and a hard watch. But yeah, I don't know what I was expecting. But again, I think because it's an older film, because it's from the 80s, it's just a bit slower paced. So I know if it was made today, it would probably be a lot faster paced, a lot gorier. But also when they made it, apparently when it was like pitched, some like producers and stuff, I'm going to get wrong who it was that thought it, but they thought it was going to be a bit more like a slasher as well. And then obviously when this came out, they were like, this is actually like a lot more depraved and a lot more like real than they were expecting it to be. But yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
what were your thoughts on it? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but yeah, I'd after watching it and doing some research, I there was a bit of controversy with the film because it's loosely based on yeah, Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole,
Yeah.
but like obviously Henry Lee Lucas is known for being the confession killer.
Yeah.
So he confessed to over like 600 murders. So it's kind of like was what was on the film, was that yeah, realistic to what really happened.
Yeah.
But then apparently the filmmakers argued that it was like they were all well aware that he was the confession killer. Like they apparently did their research and knew about these killings. So I don't know.
So I think the ones that you see in the film are ones that he was actually convicted for. So I think that so there was like 11 that he was convicted for that they could prove were him. But as
Right.
you say, they kept bringing him a case and being like, "Was this you?" And he was like, "Yeah, that was me."
Yeah.
But when and again, like we'll talk about him because it's kind of hard not to with this film. But like his childhood was. How I didn't say how much did you like dig in because his childhood was depraved.
Yeah, I read a little bit about it afterwards. His mum particularly there was a really difficult relationship there.
Yeah,
Yes, because she was a sex worker, and then he was then forced to participate wearing women's clothes.
yeah.
So very fucked up, and apparently she used to beat him a lot to the point that he was in a coma for like 3 days. So yeah, like it's yeah,
Yeah.
insane,
And
insane thing.
like this was it, and it was all there's like 7 different serial killers that were all forced to dress as girls as children. So again, I don't know what that correlation is, but and again, but it might not just be the fact that they're dressing as girls, but there's probably some the way they're treated
Yeah.
when that happens. There's also yeah, he also had brain damage, and like was drinking moonshine at like 10 years old, but it was probably the really fucking strong stuff. So he had like serious brain damage. And again, like so many serial killers have brain damage and it just completely changes their behavior. Like they have no empathy and it like,
Yeah.
yeah, makes them do horrible things. And then his dad got really drunk on the moonshine, passed out one night. This is a very, yeah, hello, trigger warnings for this episode. But he passed out on a railway track and a train, apparently it was a slow train, but it ran over his legs. So he had to have them amputated. And then after the several years living like this, and again, like having to watch his wife have sex with other men, and she was also making her children watch, which is just again so fucked up.
Yeah.
He crawled out of the house one night in like winter and just basically like died of pneumonia because he was just like, I'm done, I can't kill myself, and dragged himself outside to die.
Holy shit.
Like it's like again, so it's like I'm not ever gonna forget, like say, because again, like so many people have terrible childhoods and still grow up not to be serial killers. But when you look back at everything Henry Lee Lucas went through, you're like, well, he was never gonna grow up to be your average normal human.
Your average Joe.
Your average Joe. But he also killed his mum, and that's why he was in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, he got like 40 years, didn't he?
Yeah, but then it makes I don't know how old he was supposed to be when in this, but again, Michael Rooker doesn't look like him because Henry Lee Lucas also had a fake eye because he lost his eye as a kid.
Yes,
and apparently he had no teeth either. So I was like, the casting here is like.
Well, I think their point was that it was meant to be loosely based.
I would say very loosely.
Yeah, like it's really weird because in some parts it's very like precise. Like they all have like Becky is obviously someone that was involved in the real case. Like, but in some parts it is really like to the point, and then in other parts it's very, very different. So it's interesting how they've kind of like done that.
And again, but even so, like on Becky, there was something I read where like, so in this it's portrayed that she's fallen in love with Henry, whereas apparently in real life she was a victim. She was, like dragged along and being dragged all over the country by him,
right?
Okay, maybe not all over the country, I can't remember, like, but like dragged into this stuff, and she wasn't like a willing participant. So again, this kind of frames her as this like, oh, she's fallen in love with a killer, like helpless romantic. And it's like, apparently it wasn't like that. And apparently Ottis, whose real name, I think it has 2 T's, because apparently like his mum couldn't spell it, or
okay, Ottis Toole.
But I think the extra T is like makes it Otis. I don't know. But yes, sorry. Apparently he was gay. And again, so the film depicts him as like obsessed with women. And again, not saying that, gay people can't rape, but like, it was portrayed as like, he was obsessed with the female form, but actually it was like, well, if he was raping the victims, was it more of a power play? I don't know. Again, I think they missed a lot.
Yeah, well, to me, I sort of in the film saw Otis as that like he would prey on anyone, like that young kid that I think he was getting drugs off of him. He like touched his leg and like made sexual gestures at him.
Fucking pervert.
And that was another guy. So I think it was implied that he was maybe bi or like interested in kind of either sex. I don't know. It seemed like with Otis, it was very much like at some points he seemed more depraved than fucking Henry, which is saying something. And obviously, again, I'm going by the film. I don't know. Obviously, we've looked into this a little bit, but I don't know enough about the real case to say that. But in this film, it's almost like for example, when he tries to hit on Becky, his own sister in this film, and like, pushes when he orders her to go and get a beer and Henry stands up for her. And there's a little part of you that's kind of like, yeah, go on, Henry, like thank you for, which is mental because, we're talking about 2 serial killers here.
Yeah, I think we've joked about it before though. It's like when you get killers like Dexter and the like killers who are just out to kill, they're like, I've got this thing inside me, but I'm just going to stand up for the little guy. And we always root for them. But again, like Henry wasn't one of them.
No.
But again, like Otis in this is kind of treated almost like an animal.
Yeah.
Like when he's doing really horrible things, when Henry wants him to stop, he does shout at him like a dog.
Yeah.
Like and again, like I think this is it. I think the film was trying to be based on it, possibly loosely, but they obviously because probably sold more tickets. But again, because of the brain damage, apparently, and I cannot remember the term for it, but Henry and possibly Otis as well had the brain damage kind of fucked with their memories. So actually, they couldn't remember what was a memory and what was a fact, which is why when they kept bringing them cold cases and were like, "Did you do this?" they would just confess because they were like, "Yeah," because they couldn't remember what was real and what they'd been told. And apparently at one point, I think it was Henry, not Otis, was asked, like, because he was like, oh yeah, I was in Japan and I did that. And they're like, oh, how'd you get there? And he was, oh, I drove. Because they just had such low IQ and such fucked up, like so much brain damage. They didn't know what was real and what wasn't.
Yeah.
So they were like, you can't actually, and I think there's a biography and like Henry Lucas actually helped write it, but it was like, you can't actually tell his story without fiction, because nobody knows the truth.
Yeah.
So again, so it would have made this film very hard to make because it's like, and again, like the way they portray them is wrong. But again, because they actually, you can't physically get the facts.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on a rant.
No, not at all. This is a really weird reference, but at some points, like when you go back to how, like when I was saying like how at some points Otis is more sort of more vile than Henry, or like, yeah, he's just more depraved. But then like Henry is always in charge. Like anytime he wants him to stop something, like Otis will do it. And it kind of reminded me of From Dusk Till Dawn with the two brothers. How like Quentin Tarantino's character was way more like sexually depraved and like raped that woman at the beginning, whereas George Clooney's character was like, what the fuck are you doing? No, like it's a really strange comparison, but for some reason it really reminded me of that.
Yeah. No, fair. No, you're right, actually. Yeah, like, yeah, similar.
Weird, but
it is funny. Well, not funny, but it is kind of like how, especially with like serial killers and that, but like some people will have that line. Yeah. And you don't cross that line. It's like, it doesn't matter what they do. They don't see it as bad, but you don't cross that line. Yeah. And we've definitely seen that in like horror characters before, but yeah.
Yeah. But because certainly in this film, it didn't, like, again, I can't talk about real life as such, because obviously I don't know. But it felt like in this film, Henry wasn't a particularly kind of sexual person. Like when Becky was trying to start something with him, he didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
And when a lot of these kills were with sex workers, it wasn't really, he wasn't starting anything. It was like an immediate murder. Like he lured them into the car, but like pretty much straight away it seemed like Otis in this film was kind of more on the side of very heavily like sexualized, and everything was sexual with him. Whereas with Henry, it was more like, I need to go out and kill these people.
Yeah. Like, and you're right, like when he was killing the sex workers, and like when he was like in the car. But again, we've seen that before with like serial killers where they tend to kill, but they tend to have, okay, I'm going to kill this person because. So like Ted Bundy, it was his ex-girlfriend. They were like all looked like her. So it's like, well, with Henry Lee Lucas, was he killing sex workers because his mom was a sex worker? So again, from the film perspective, because again, it's very hard to know what the fucker was up to in real life because he just kept confessing to everything. But yeah, so it's kind of like, was that why? And again, we've said this before, funny enough, with American Psycho, where it's like, well, actually, a lot of people target sex workers because the belief is that no one cares about them. Yeah. If they disappear, everyone's like, well, what did you expect? And nobody has sympathy for the victim, which is like fucked up, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, especially in the 80s, they sort of thought of them as easy targets because who will miss them? Will they be missed?
Yeah. And again, especially like because serial killers were rampant in the 80s. Like, I don't know what happened like between like 60s and 80s. And again, like now we've got like everyone's got a phone with them. There's cameras fucking everywhere. It's much easier to track people. So it's like, have serial killers gone down, but purely because it's harder to get away with it? Because every time, like Otis was like, "Oh, well, what are we going to do with, like, what happens when their bodies are found?" And he's like, "Nothing."
What's going to happen when they find those bodies? Nothing.
Yeah,
like they just didn't care. Like even at the end, the suitcase was left so obvious. Like he didn't even try and take it. It was just at the side of the road. He didn't like take it further in.
No.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
It's a fucking scary time to be alive.
Yeah, scary time. And also I suppose back then it was very much like you say, like no technology, and there was a lot of like hitchhiking involved, and people would just get into anyone's cars. Like there were so many stories of these women coming across Ted Bundy and getting a lift with them, or you know, like so many other like serial killers. I'm pretty sure like so many people got in a car with like Jack the Ripper. Like
I don't think Jack the Ripper had a car, but
I meant the Yorkshire Ripper.
Incredible. Maybe it's horse and carriage.
Oh, that's so certainly. I meant the Yorkshire Ripper, everyone. I apologize.
No, you are right. Like for the Yorkshire Ripper, not Jack the Ripper.
Yes.
How they didn't catch him? He was the only fucker in London with a motor vehicle. Oh dear, that's funny.
But yeah, so it's interesting that you thought the first half was kind of boring.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't feel that way. Like I felt like it was kind of there was a lot of tension building up. I felt very uneasy the whole time I was watching it. I was kind of like waiting for something to happen. So I kind of felt very like on edge when I was watching it. And like kind of when there was like scenes of him like driving and kind of
Mm,
scoping out people, I thought that was really creepy and really eerie. Um, and when Becky was introduced, I was kind of curious to like how she's going to be involved in any of it and
mm,
who Otis is to her. Like they just kind of suddenly came along.
yeah.
Um, and then it all kind of joined together. But yeah, I kind of like the build up.
Like I think that's the problem. Like, and again, it's my problem with like slow burn horror is that like tension build up. I'm just like, get like, yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's really funny because you need that in a horror film. With the amount of
Yeah.
times I'm like, I get it, I'm tense, and I'm just like, I'm a fucked up human being. You are right though when he was like picking his victims was
Mm,
like it's a really fucked up film, and it actually is
mm.
apparently like one of the top three films that psychologists they made a bunch of psychologists sit and watch like over 200 horror films based around serial killers, and this and then two others are like the top three best portrayals of an actual serial killer
Wow.
and like that mindset. So it probably does need a bit more of that. Like, because again, like if we're used to slashers, they just kill and kill and kill. Whereas a serial killer is looking for a victim. They are looking, they are hunting, as it were, and they're in their cars and they're watching, and it is fucking creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And yeah, that's the kind of reality, I guess, of a serial killer is that a lot of it is kind of waiting,
Mm,
like scoping out your prey and like figuring out how you're gonna get to them.
yeah.
So that, I guess that's why I kind of liked it. But yeah, it sort of all kind of comes together when
Mm,
they're all in the flat. But even then, like some of it, because obviously this is a very low budget movie, um, the bit when they get a camcorder and like they're all filming each other. Like that's all very tense to me because it's like it could literally go like really nasty at like
mm,
any point. Like, and the fact that Becky was aware of who, like, she was in this building with these two men, and clearly she felt safe and felt like warm to Henry, but like she knew that he killed his mother and like she knows how much of a creep Otis is, but she doesn't have a choice. Like she doesn't she needs to go and work. She's just turned to family to do that and has kind of lumbered herself in. I felt so bad for her that like she's lumbered herself in with the two worst people you possibly could.
I think the only reason as well why she when she was like bonding with Henry and they were talking about like their childhoods, and he's like, because she was like, "Oh, did you kill your mum?" And he was like, "Well, I suppose I did." And it's like, "Well, hang on,
Mm.
you did." Like, no, suppose you killed her. But then she talks about how her dad used to rape her.
Mm.
So I wonder if there was kind of like that. Not everything's
Yeah.
black and white. I understand why you'd want to kill a parent.
Yeah.
Like she didn't, but because he was then kind of saying his side, as it were, that I wonder if that's why she was
Yeah. Well,
like,
she does say as well when he says it that like, oh, your mum must have been really mean to you or something.
yeah,
Like she says something like that. So that's immediately the place that she's in where she's
yeah.
like, right, I'm immediately going to be compassionate to this guy.
Yeah, like she didn't come from a perfect household, perfect parents, all the like she didn't come from that like yeah, like a mother's or a father's love. Like she came from this
Yeah.
really abusive household. So I again it like had she come from a very stable home, it would have been a very different
Yeah.
conversation. Now I liked Becky as a character, but it is really upsetting her story because as you
Mm.
say, she's just trying to work and like go home to her kid and she's just in the
Yeah.
worst place.
Yeah.
With that home movie, like because you had the one with the three of them in the flat, and then they also had the one with the family.
Mm.
When Otis was holding the mother in that family, was that kind of the same position that Henry was holding Becky in when they did the home movie? Or was I imagining that?
Oh, I don't know. It felt like the home movie was very much like the one in the flat was it didn't I don't know, like same maybe kind of same position, I don't
It
know.
wasn't like threatening, but he was like holding her from
Mm.
behind, I think. I'm gonna again, I'll put the clips here and see how
Yeah. That's a
close it
good
was in my
point,
head.
maybe.
But because that was fucking horror. That home movie, I'm kind of glad it was a camcord because it almost did take you slightly further out again, but it was
Yeah, it
fucking
takes you
horrible.
further out of it. Yeah, it really was horrible. It was really hard to watch.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, it was like it was almost like everything was kind of getting worse as it was going on.
Yeah.
Like you had like Otis, you know, assaulting the mum, and then the kid comes home from school, and then suddenly just shit fucking goes down, and suddenly all of them are dead,
Yeah.
basically, like in such a small space of time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was really hard to watch, and it really, again, like fucking make I'm just throwing back all these films, but that kind of vibe reminded me of a lot of like Rob Zombie films, like The Devil's Rejects, when they kidnap the family and
Yeah.
they like taunt them sexually, and like it's something I've seen in a film before, and it's really hard to watch because it is that family, like, yeah, I don't know, it's that family dynamic, it's someone's home, like I
Yeah.
just think,
Yeah, it's your safe place and there's these
yeah,
twats in there.
terrifying.
I think what was weird as well with Otis was like how quickly he escalated because
Yeah,
like when Henry killed the sex worker in the car, the look on his face was like horror and shock. And then all of a sudden, like a day or so later, it's like, oh, I want to kill somebody. And then
yeah,
Henry's like coaching him through it. And then suddenly he's in the house. Like, I know Henry was behind the camera, like, oh, go on, boy, like whatever he was saying to
yeah.
him. But like he was willingly doing everything. So
Mm.
it was very quickly he escalated. Like,
Yeah, it was all almost like already in him. He just needed
yeah.
that push.
And then Henry left at the end to go and get cigarettes or whatever his excuse was. Yeah, it was cigarettes. And then he's immediately trying to rape his sister and
Mm.
kill her.
Yeah,
And it's like, again, like now you don't even need Henry. You're just fucking depraved. So as you
yeah.
say, it was already in him to do it. It wasn't like, oh, he's killing for survival because otherwise Henry will kill him. Like he fully wanted to be involved.
Yeah, it was very much like insinuated that, yeah, it was there already. It was just a few things that made him wanna, like, he was already a disgusting, like, sex offender before
Yeah.
this, but this just gave him an excuse to add on killing and to kind of release more of that, like, sexual urge that he had. Like, and like, even then, like, when you were saying about how he takes orders from Henry, like, he was gonna start to, like, touch this dead body of the mum, and then Henry's like, no, stop, don't do that, like, but he was all for it when she was alive.
No, Otis! Otis! No!
But when
Yeah.
she's dead, it's like he suddenly has morals, or maybe he just didn't want him messing around, I don't know, but like, again, like an interesting choice from the filmmakers to make him stop him from doing that.
You're so right, actually. While she was alive, he didn't care.
Yeah, like he was touching her, he was doing whatever he wanted to her at that point when she was alive. But when she's dead, it's a different story.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. Just what as well, because when he said no, oh, it sounds so horrible. I didn't know if it was because it was like, don't leave DNA behind. But then I was like, it's the 80s. Did they have like, when did DNA testing become like a regular thing, like a
Yeah,
regular
I don't know.
practice?
But that's a good
Because
point. Like it may not have been that reason at all.
no, I don't think it
Um,
was. But I don't know, as you say, where was the line between alive and dead? Like what
yeah.
suddenly changed their
Yeah.
perspective of this person?
Mm.
So that poor lady, oh fuck, it was horrible.
Yeah, it was. It was horrible. And even like the off-screen deaths, like you didn't really see the dad die, but like it was all very much insinuated. And you did see him at the end, like after
Yeah.
he'd been stabbed. Like, and that was like some, I think a lot of it, when some of it is off screen, it is a bit more effective because I've said this before in other films that we've covered, but like your imagination is doing the work for you instead of you actually watching it.
Yeah. So I did read a review actually that said about that because obviously because he's the confession killer and nobody knows kind of which murders he actually did. So somebody did make a point of that. They're like, that's why it's actually a brilliant film, genius, because you can watch it and go, okay, well, we know these ones he definitely did. But when you see like flashes of dead women and the murders, like you don't actually know, and the film isn't very clear on whether that was an
Mm.
actual murder or if that's just what you're seeing, like Henry seeing in his head. And I was like, that's actually a very good way to look at it because again, it's kind of showing his mindset. Because like one of them was like he'd been served in a restaurant and then suddenly we saw waitresses dead on the like on the desk. I know it's not a desk, on the countertop. So again, I was like, well, did he do that, or was that his like imagination?
Yeah.
But there was one, I think it was the one like right at the beginning, was actually very like accurately based on one of his victims and exactly how she was found, which I just thought was
God.
almost like too. I don't think I'll put a picture in of it here because it's almost too real of a detail.
Mm.
And again, so I wonder if that's why a lot of it was off screen, because it's like, well, actually, they don't know. Like,
Yeah.
they couldn't have shown you what actually happened. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know in terms of I have looked up a couple of the victims of Henry Lee Lucas, but it's interesting that in the film when they go to buy a TV off the guy, and then obviously they kill him. That's kind of one of the first. I know obviously they do kill men, but it seems to be way more targeted against women. So obviously you had like the son and the dad and then that guy, but a lot of it else was kind of targeted against women. So I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. Like they almost were about to leave, but that guy was like he was pissed off. He was like, you have to buy something now. And like that's when Henry just kind of like snapped and stabbed that guy in the hand. Like, yeah.
That shit in your ears? The black and white is $50. Take it or leave it.
Sorry we wasted your time. Come on, Otis.
Don't give me sorry, you dumbass. Did I stutter? Give me the $50 and get out! Don't give you
I just don't get like why that guy was so rude.
Yeah.
Like I know it was like not a typical shop, but it was just felt so unnecessary. I was like, the fuck is happening? Like I know the killing was unnecessary, but I was like, what the fuck? Although apparently a lot of that was improvised by the actor, like when he started just calling them names and stuff. So that's pretty good.
Well, apparently that guy wasn't even an actor. Apparently, because the budget was so low, he was one of the technicians.
Legend.
Which is so good. I rewatched that scene because I was like, and he's actually really good in it.
Yeah, he
But,
is.
he wasn't even. They were just like, please, fucking just do this role for us because we
Incredible.
can't afford to hire anyone.
That's incredible. That's my favorite thing. Although apparently that scene was also filmed in reverse because they had to pull the prop television away from his head.
Ah,
Don't know why that, because again I was like, but with the blood and stuff, but it worked. It's a good scene.
yeah, it works. I'll take it.
So funny. It's just so bizarre. Yeah. And there was a fake head used for Tom Towles used in the scene where his eye is stabbed. Again, I wonder if that's a reference to actually Henry in life. But it cost $700, which again, considering this was a small budget, that was probably a good chunk. I say good chunk, a reasonable amount.
Yeah, I bet that was like most of the budget that went into that. Yeah. Henry Lee Lucas's real victims. So yeah, he claimed that he killed someone. He first killed someone at age 14, which obviously it doesn't go into in the film. But yeah, apparently he killed her then because she rejected his sexual advances. And then he killed his mum, and then it turned into this allegedly turned into this killing spree with Otis Toole. So yeah. Interesting. It's either that like he's killed a handful of people or he's killed these 600 that he's confessing to. But there's a documentary on Netflix called The Confession Killers, and I've never watched it.
I haven't. I did see it after this. I was like, damn, like unfortunately I didn't have time before we recorded because but again, two very different things. Like that, I think that's the point, is that this film is based on him.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of inaccuracy. So it's probably better we didn't watch it and then be like, well, that bit they got wrong and that bit, because the film's made like it's 40 years old now. Like they can't change it.
I also kind of like how it is as well, because we still, like you were saying earlier, we still don't know how many people this guy killed. So I think it does stand up today as a horror film because it is still kind of accurate, because we're still not sure. Like we don't know anymore now. Like
that's true. And he also, again, the ending, he gets back in his car and drives away. Like he wasn't finished.
No, it wasn't.
There is a number 2 actually, and I haven't seen this. I haven't seen that
really
yet. Yeah, there is a Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer 2.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought this kind of film would get a sequel.
Right? I was like, again, that's what really threw me when I first saw that, because I was like, what is this film if it's got a sequel?
I wonder if Michael Rook is in it again.
Does he not look a little bit like Heath Ledger in this?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I see it.
I kept seeing it, but I was like, but I mean, Heath Ledger would have been a child if when this was filmed, but I was just like, yeah, had never seen that connection before in any of his other films, but suddenly in this one, I was like, oh, hang on. Oh
Yeah, that's true. Not when he's in Guardians of the Galaxy, you didn't see
no,
it.
no, just didn't look. I say once he was. Now I'm looking at a bald picture of him, like, kind of, but yeah. Oh. That's really sad because if Heath Ledger was still around, they could have easily had like a father-son roles at some point.
Yeah, they could have.
Like,
It's really funny because the only films I've seen Michael Rooker in, I'm pretty sure, are this and Guardians of the Galaxy. And you've got this, and then you've got like, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Like, it's so different. Like, fuck me. Like,
what
this
a
is
fucking
so
resume.
completely different ends of the scale.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
That is so fucking true. I've definitely seen him in other things, but like that is like, yeah, what a resume. This was also his second film. Well, he was in Crime Story, which is a TV series, and then he was in this.
Holy shit.
I actually think, hang on, there was something about him coming to the audition. I think he was working as a janitor at the time. So he walked in his janitor overalls and his jacket, and it's why he never kills in a jacket in the film, because he only had the one and he didn't want to get fake blood on it. I'm trying to see if he is in it. Why can I not just find number 2? Mostly because I didn't want to type on my keypad and make it loud.
Well, it's interesting because Michael Rooker he was very like method in this film. Like, he didn't break character. He was very much, apparently he was the only one that was given his own dressing room because he didn't want to interact with any of the others. And any time that like his makeup artist would talk to him, she wouldn't know whether he would be Henry or she would be talking as Michael Rooker.
Wow.
And apparently his wife found out she was pregnant at the time of filming, but she decided not to tell him until after they'd stopped filming.
Absolutely valid.
Yeah, because like, what reaction are you going to get? Are you going to get Henry's reaction? Like, I would do the same.
I feel like I'd have moved out. Like, if my partner was like a method actor, and because I think they filmed this quite quickly. So say it was like a month shoot.
Like, yeah, you need to do this.
Yeah, like, you need to do this. I'm gonna go live with Katie for a month.
Yeah.
Call me when you're back and you're not Henry anymore. No, in number 2, it's Neil. I'm not gonna be able to say his surname. Guintoli, Giuntoli, who plays Henry.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
But
what would you give this spookies out of 5? And what was your favorite spooky moment?
Ooh. I'm gonna give this 4 spookies out of 5. I really liked it. I thought it was great. I'd watch it again. It wasn't the nicest watch, of course. So I'd have to be in the right mindset to watch it again. But yeah, I felt this was kind of the way I felt after Martyrs. Like, I wanted to go and have a fucking long shower after watching it. I felt dirty. But I think it did what it needed to do. I think it was a very like brutal portrayal of a real life serial killer, and whether it's 100% accurate or not, I completely appreciate that maybe it's not as respectful as it could be to the victims if it's not 100% accurate. But I think that they did a good job with what they had, the information they had at the time. So yeah, I just think it's a great film. And I think my spooky moment is going to be that home invasion, because I think that really threw me off. Like, all of a sudden we were watching it and we were just put into this. And like you said, it was very good that we were watching it from their perspective, because yeah, like, watching that in real time would have been quite a tough watch. So yeah, what about you?
I think I'm going to give this 2.5. It's hard because I quite liked it, but I just, again, I'm not going to put it on again anytime soon. I didn't really vibe with the beginning.
Yeah.
I think I've kind of got a bit stuck on the fact that they did get so much wrong. But then the more I learned about him, the more I was like, okay, so they were never going to get everything right. I also, and again, I don't know why this has only just occurred to me as well. Becky, was she his sister or his niece? Because I'm sure she was both. Like, I'm sure he kept referring to her as different things as the film went on.
Oh, really? I only ever heard sister. I think she's his niece in real life.
Right. Because at the beginning, I'm sure
She's
he
his
introduced
sister.
her as niece, and then it was sister for the rest of it, and I got really confused.
Ah.
So again, little details like that I'm gonna watch it again now, and it will never have said the word niece.
No, could be right.
But yeah, I just got like fixated on the Monty doll. But I think my spooky moment, I think I'm actually going to go with the bit where they go to buy a new TV, just because I think although that was still a killing, it wasn't nearly as depraved as some of the other ones. So I think that was a little bit more, yeah, kind of just like, and as I said, like it just escalated so quickly. I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, I am also just looking. They were apprehended. Nope, his date isn't on there. Otis Toole was apprehended in 1983. And this came out in 1986.
Right.
So I was like, again, it was like kind of makes a bit more sense why they wouldn't have had the full story, because it was only 3 years later. So I just wanted to see if that was like Henry must have been apprehended around the same time as well. Oh yeah, 1983.
Yeah. So I would have assumed that at that point, you know, Henry was still confessing to multiple murders. He was probably doing that into his, you know, probably until he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he died in 2001. He was 64. So he was probably just, but there was rumors that like he was only confessing because you get treated better in prison if you confess more murders. So that also could have been a contributing factor.
Which is so fucked up. Like the more murders you've committed, they'll treat you better. And you're like, no, hang on.
Yeah, it's because like you're higher risk, I guess. But like,
well, no, it's because they were meant the police were closing cases.
Oh, I see.
So I think that's the problem. They were probably giving him better treatment because then he'd just give them the information what he wanted. Because again, they both had very low IQ.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, if I can get you to confess, then because again, how many murders are still out there that they never caught because he kept fucking confessing?
He kept
confessing. And Otis.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But very low IQ, very easy to sway them and be like, how did you kill this person? And give like drip feed them the information.
Crazy.
But yes.
But it's mental. Like on here, it's like 3 confirmed, 250 plus claimed. Like, that's crazy to me that only 3 have been confirmed.
Fucking mental.
Yeah.
I thought he was convicted on 11. Maybe it was 11 went to trial and like maybe they couldn't convict them all.
Maybe.
Again, I need to watch this documentary, get all the facts.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking that. I might watch that in a minute.
I know. I don't want to ask if we'd survive this because again, it's a real situation.
I agree. I think maybe we should leave that out of this episode. Yeah, because this was a bit more of one of our more serious episodes. So we'll leave this one out, but we'll come back next week with an even better Would You Survive? But yeah, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Well, on that cheerful note, that was our Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer episode. Join us again next week for another, hopefully slightly more upbeat episode. We'll have to look at what film we've chosen. And if not, if this episode was a bit too heavy, well, if you've made it here already, go and check out some of our other episodes. Tucker vs. Dale, very funny episode. Something a bit more lighthearted. But do remember to look after yourself, because the world is fucking shit right now. But until then, bye.
Bye-bye.
I don't even want to say it. The world's so shit, I don't even want to say it.
No, let's take care of yourself.
Do. Mwah.
Mwah.